What if the habit that could make you stronger, calmer, and unshakable was one modern life completely erased? The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, started each day not with noise, but with reflection. Just a few minutes asking, what kind of person do I want to be today? How will I face difficulty? This forgotten practice turns chaos into clarity, and stress into strength. If this speaks to you, subscribe to Legacy of Thinkers, and watch the full video linked below to uncover all 6 Stoic habits that modern life tried to erase. But you need